So, hi, Lacrosse Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with,
I'm Justin.
I'm Matt, and we're Amber Pacific.
and we're some questions to say about the upcoming album, All In. So, congrats on that, by the way. How do you guys feel about the response, the announcement so far?
Yeah, excited. I mean, we're really excited to get the rest of the album out there. It's been great to have the two songs out there and seeing how people are enjoying them and listening to them. And it's great to be putting new music out.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
The album fucking rips.
Yeah, the album rocks.
Okay. So you've heard the album.
Yeah, we
yeah,
have.
yeah. Of
We
course
do
we
our
have.
homework. We do our homework.
Mhm.
There you go.
I gotta ask the cliche gimme question. First record in 11 years. Can we talk a little bit about getting the band back together, the process of getting back in a room together, working on a record, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the last record we did was in 2014, and that was kind of when I came back into the band after leaving to pursue my career in education, and then we released that album on our own independently and recorded it at Monkey Trench Studios with at where MXPX is housed and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And needless to say, a self-released record with a bunch of dudes who aren't necessarily like at the forefront of the social media game didn't necessarily do very well. And we weren't even getting show opportunities off that record. So it wasn't as if we didn't want to be on the road and didn't want to play shows. We weren't getting offered. And it was in 2019, December 27th, we played a show with MXPX here in Seattle at the Showbox, and it was sold out, so fun. And we're like, this is incredible. And like, maybe we get to do this again. And maybe our scene's kind of making a comeback. And then COVID hit. And any type of momentum that we may have had 2019 going into 2020 just kind of stalled. And so was always interested in getting out there and playing new music and hoping that the opportunity to do that would lead to another record. And we're very fortunate that Manic Cat kind of believed in us enough to start putting everything together and putting out the album this summer. So, or working on the album this summer.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh my
Love
goodness.
it.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I'm glad you guys were able to kind of find that momentum again and get back on the scene. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yeah, All In is really kind of our expression of what we want to put into this record. We, I mean, like Matt was saying, this last year has really been about building momentum again. I mean, in April, we went out with Red Jumpsuit, and that kind of, on that tour, kind of rekindled a lot of different things. That's when we met with Manic Cat. That's when we got other opportunities to go on the road in the fall. And so we were just looking at this like, hey, if we're going to do this, let's just do it and go all in. And so it's kind of our heart behind it, our motivations, our desire to it. And the album cover is just being a band in the industry and just being human in the world. There's a lot of things you have to overcome. And so for me, it's just a symbol of like, hey, we've had to deal with a lot of stuff in our careers, in our own lives. And yet the five of us are still here and standing on top of it all with one another. And so that the brotherhood that we have as a band is real. And that kind of is symbolized in what we've had to overcome and what the cover really shows.
Hell yeah.
That's
Love
wonderful.
that.
Hell yeah.
So can you guys tell us a little bit about your writing process for the album?
Yeah, the writing process definitely starts with Will, our other guitarist, and he's a pilot by day and a songwriter by night. And so he'll be at some faraway location and in a hotel room. That's my dog wanting to join the interview. And he'll write, whether it's in a hotel room and while we're appreciative of the momentum and things and opportunities that we got, truthfully, Will was ready, as in he never stopped from 2014 and all the songs that ended up on the turn to now. he never stopped writing. And I mean, for him to have the creative capacity to do that without these songs potentially ever being heard or recorded, and just wanting to continue to write and use it as a mechanism for expression, meant that by the time we decided we were going to record this record, we were going through 20 to 24 demoed songs that he had already had. So what he'll do is he'll go in and he'll write the songs on either guitar or piano, and then write the lyrics, and he'll record it all himself, the demos all himself. And then he'll bring it to me, where we'll kind of work together on putting my demo voice over the track to kind of find the key and everything like that. He likes to write songs real high, and I'm not a big fan of that. So we typically got to negotiate a little bit about which ones are we gonna blow me out and which ones are we not. And even in the process from the initial writing and the demos, there were songs that were going to be in the record that, when it was all said and done, didn't make the record. And that is something where I don't know if we've ever come in to a recording where we are leaving 10 plus songs on the chopping room floor that have been demoed and vetted and everything like that. And that's what the benefit of 11 years does. I mean, 11 years of songwriting is going to get you things that, 2 months of songwriting isn't going to get you. When we were doing Truth and Sincerity after Possibility and the Promise, it was 2 years between those records. And while it may be like, 2 years is a long time, well, it was 2 years of being on the road, and you're not really writing on the road. You're busy at that point driving ourselves from one place to the other and figuring out how we're going to afford bad microwave food and so then when we were recording our second full length, I mean, it was like, oh geez, this is like our job, this is our profession, and we don't have a record, and we are recording a record. So I think it really shows that, like, good things take time, and without the pressure and in a rush to do something, we were able to kind of go through and take the best of the best and put those on the record.
So would you guys
100%.
say that you ultimately benefited from basically having 11 years worth of songs to go through, or was it like overwhelming because it's just so many years and so many songs to ultimately sift through for an album?
I think it is beneficial, but there is certainly a challenge when we're going to disagree on songs. Like this is probably the first time where from the demo phase through the end, there were songs that some of us liked more than others. And then we're in the recording studio, and there are songs where we're arguing about which ones we should do. And, and it's a little bit of iron sharpens iron. And so it can be uncomfortable. And so I would say there were definitely moments recording this record where it maybe wasn't as comfortable as it was, but I felt that there was a lot of growth in that. And I really do think that when it was all said and done, I think it's all something that we can agree, looking back on it, none of us got all of our way in any capacity. That's what compromise is about. But whatever the final product is probably the best product that could be put out there, for sure.
That makes sense.
100%. Yeah. So what song off the album took longest to write, and then which one is each of your own personal favorite?
Oh my goodness, that's a hard question. Like, seriously, I hate to be that guy. Like, every band and every member of a band is supposed to say this, but I have a really hard time picking my favorite song.
That is the cliche answer. Yeah.
I know it is. It really is, because I listen to it regularly still, and that's the thing that I think I always wondered when I was growing up in the music, like watching bands, like, do bands get excited about their own music, or is it just kind of a thing? And I'm like, as a member of this, like, I'm stoked about this album. Like, I love this album.
Yeah.
And so, well, I can't speak to the longest it took to write, because there was a lot of, there is a throwback song on there. So you could say that's been in the works for, 10 plus years to get to that place. But Sink or Swim is definitely up there. I'm loving that song. Hero and the Villain, which is the last track on the album, That one has a section, the bridge in the final portion of that song is really speaking to our band. And I've teared up listening to that part. So that's probably my favorite segment of the whole album.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So
Love it.
sweet.
I'd go. I mean, so this is where we're going to end up saying half the record, but like,
Yeah.
I would go for the vibe. I'm an honest truth guy, and so for Amber Pacific fans, like I remember when bands would say, "Oh, it's going to be something new and it's going to sound different." And I remember the bands I liked. I go, "Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm listening to you because I want to hear you sound like you." And so I don't want anybody to freak out if they're excited about this upcoming record, wanting to hear Amber Pacific. Trust me, we are still Amber Pacific. But the honest truth has got like an island kind of reggae beach vibe that then goes to like punk and then it's just got all these dynamics and things, and the way it moves literally within song across genres is a vibe that I really like, and I think shows our growth as a band, something we couldn't have done back in the beginning. And then as far as messaging is concerned, the song "Afloat" as a teacher of middle school students, and with my own daughter entering that stage of life where there can be so many challenges that are associated with being a teenager, and especially a teenager in a social media world. Afloat's messaging is one that, you know, I think is going to resonate and be powerful for maybe a new, younger generation of Air Pacific fans.
Absolutely. Now, is there a longest one that to write?
I couldn't say what the longest one to write is either. Without Will here, I couldn't tell you. I could tell you there are the song "Unbroken." I would say, in a sense, was the fastest song to write, in that Will wrote it, and it was one that wasn't necessarily going to make the record. And
very different feel of what it was ended up being too. Very different.
It's kind of like it was a song that wasn't going to make the record, and the way it sounds now on the record is almost like a new song that went from not making it to being track 6, which isn't, a position you put a song that, quote, barely makes the record. So I would say, the fastest song was that one, because it was something that came together probably over a 48-hour period from this one's not good enough to what if we and then it kind of really built itself up, and big credit to Sean Rogers, our producer, for always laying the groundwork and never settling with just anything, and that was an example where it's like, guys, I don't know if this is good enough, but we gotta really play with it, and we did, and then it's like, oh, that is better. So the fastest one, "Unbroken." The longest one, Justin's alluding to "The Good Life." And I mean, maybe we're not supposed to break this news, but I'll be singing a song off of "Virtues," and so that would be the longest one, I would say, Justin. I'd go with you on that. That would have been like 2009 was when that song was first.
That song's 15 years in the making. Let's just say that.
Goddamn.
Was there something in particular about "Unbroken" that was like, this song isn't it, but there's something about it that makes us want to try to take a crack at it and make it a song that's worth putting on the record?
Dustin, that'd be good to hear your objections, and then I can go on the parts I like.
Yeah, I mean, the original, it was a little bit of an outside the box feel wise. I mean, it was more like a "Welcome to My Life" by Simple Plan feel.
Okay.
Much more like groove. Much more of like slower. Much more of a tempo, a little bit of acoustic in there driving it. So laid back. And then the version that it ended up being is very like much more in your face, Sum 41, big mutes, faster. And so I think so that's the transformation that it went through, and why it ended up there. I mean, it was almost a battle to get that one on there, or to not put other things on there instead of that one.
Yeah.
So you talk to any of us, and there may still be differing of opinions when it comes to that song.
Jesus,
Okay.
even now.
Which is the beauty of it.
I love the chorus. I thought
it's great.
because I just the chorus part, and I just felt, and then Will even went back and changed just some subtle things in the melody of the chorus, and some of the lyrical things related to the bridge that once we started going faster and more guitar riffs and the song. I mean, the song went from kind of being sad and about this idea of, you know, not being broken, and then it went into like it ended up having like strength and like, you're not gonna break me. This is what it's all about. And when people hear the lyrics and they hear the song, hopefully they feel the same, where it's like, yeah, I'm not happy. This isn't what I want. But and so just the change in tempo and attitude went from a song where it almost is like you're feeling sorry for yourself in struggle, and turned into something where you're almost empowered by it and using the anger to move forward and be better.
Oh yeah, all right. So how'd the track list for the album come about? Did you guys write the opener of the opener, close big closer, shuffle in and see what fits? What was that process like?
Yeah, much more of a shuffling around to see what fits. Will and I mean, when we were out on the road, even before recording, and we had all the demos, we were starting to work on track listing of what we think the songs would end up like, and so it had morphed multiple times. And I mean, from the original opener was going to be One Step Away, but then Sink or Swim just came in and was like, oh my gosh, that's so good. We have to open the album with that one. And so it really did change and transform. And then we started talking about what goes where. And from my opinion, the final track listing actually was a pretty smooth process on our end. I don't feel that was like I really think it should be like this. Partly because we all recognize the streaming world that we're in.
Yeah.
And to get someone to listen to the whole thing from front to back like an artist wants is a really tricky thing to do. But then also because we kind of know one another enough now to know what we're trying to go after, and it blended together really well.
Yeah, and I would encourage anybody who likes albums. We're going to put this one out on vinyl, and I mean, there is a mood and a vibe in it that you're going to go on, because I would say there are like probably 4 different pockets of different styles of Amber Pacific songs, and it starts with Sink or Swim, which is the what's up, we're Amber Pacific, we are here to rock, but we're also going to have a song that's going to get stuck in your head. You don't know whether you should sing along or air guitar along or air drum along. And then we bookended that with Hero and the Villain, which is a very similar vibe, where we hope when people are all done, they're like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? And then want to go back and start it over again. But Justin's right. That was, I mean, once the songs were done, it fell in place where just the way they naturally transition from the intros of songs to the outros of others to the feeling of song, where, you know, after one that has a little bit slower tempo, you want to pick it up, but you don't want to pick it up too fast that people are like, whoa, wait a minute, am I listening to the same record? And so you kind of just create this wave of both feeling and emotions and tempo and vibe, and I think that's exactly what we did.
Oh yeah. And you know, in a single space, I respect a band that still like takes into account a track list, especially like for vinyl, because as you guys said, it's a singles landscape. You gotta lead with the singles. There's limited bandwidth for people to consume music. So, you know, considering the vinyl is always something I appreciate as someone that wants to listen to an album, not just a collection of singles.
Yeah. I will say we worked really hard to put the best album out, not just the best song out. I mean, that was, and we still are arguing about what the next songs to release are.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
we all have a hard time. Like we have a show coming up in Seattle and it's like, okay, which ones are we going to actually play? And getting feedback and what's everybody's favorite songs and which ones to stand out on the album. It's like, it's so strong. Will and the team, we've done such a good job that it's really, really hard. So, I mean, some of us like, man, if we just wrote a crappier album, this would be an easier conversation.
This would be so easy.
Um,
Yeah.
I know, right? And I'm really bragging on Will. Matt did a great job. I mean, he sounds better than he ever has on anything. And so, like, really bragging on the work that those guys put into it. And so it's been hard to figure out, and yet I think we're really proud of the end result.
Hell yeah, love that.
Damn right, as you should be.
And I don't know. I mean, again, we love every song, and I don't want anybody to hear this and think that, oh, they like. Of course, every band. No, not every band loves every song, and it isn't
No,
even.
it's so true.
That time passes. Like when we were on playing a few shows with Mest in September. We're sitting there in the rented RV, and we're going through. All right, what's the song you cut from The Possibility of the Promise? And what's the song you cut from Truth and Sincerity? And so it isn't that every song that we put out, we all are 100% behind, and maybe it's because it's the work we just did. But I know I can still remember 20 years ago, I can still remember there being songs where I was excited about going in and singing it and recording it. And then I hear it for the first time and I'm like, oh man, and then I hope through the mixing process and I'm like, dang it. And then we go through the mastering. It's literally on the record. And I'm like, ooh. And it isn't that they're like bad. It just is like in my head what I envisioned or what I thought I sounded like. Or the way I thought I would feel when I was listening to it. And sometimes it just doesn't meet expectations. And with this record, there were songs on there that I was like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I'll sing it. And then I'm like, dang it. Okay. Well, that was one I didn't think would be good enough.
Yeah.
Then it ends up on the record because it's just, again, to get to that place and to have that volume of music and then be able to take the best of the best, then you get a better result than having 12 and songs and putting out 12 songs.
Yeah, it's all about servicing what's best for the album, whether or not like it's your absolute favorite. It's all about what creates the best record. Yep.
So who knows? There's demos and things that got pretty far down the road that I can listen to. But they're not on the record.
Yeah.
Yeah. It happens. So would you guys be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating the record?
I think the creative process is a very hopeful process. In the sense that you're seeing something progress from an idea to a finished product. And to kind of witness the birthing of something like that is kind of this, like, it's this journey from, and Matt just alluded to it, you have this idea of what it's going to be, and then it morphs and changes, and then you get other people's inputs, and then you compromise, and so the birthing of something from an acoustic track with Will singing on my phone while I'm making breakfast with my kids, right, to what we now have in our hands is just this, like, okay, that creative, it's just hope inspiring. It's like, yes, we are all in process. There is a journey that we're on. And if I allude to other parts of life, it's this, like, yeah, we may be, parts of my life are at the culmination of something, parts of my life are in the middle, parts of my life are the wrestle, and that journey, it really is captured by the creative writing, recording, putting it out there process. And so this is a good season just generally in my life, and I think that's gone into or been part of the process for me.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I there's ev- hope is incredibly important, and it is also the record provided perspective. And I mean, we've been able to do this for 20 years, and a great example of that perspective would have been literally 1 month ago, maybe a little more, but it's when all the Spotify Wrapped come out, and um, we obviously as artists, we see our Spotify Wrapped, and there are things in there that are great accomplishments, but you can't help but then compare yourself to those bands who are in the same fraternity as us, or that we've toured with, or that we've gotten signed to record deals, or we've taken on tour with, and you can't help but look at some of their numbers, and they're all bigger and better than ours. And so there's this humbling perspective where, when we say all in, that's what we're trying to do. That we understand that we're not out there grinding. We haven't been doing that for 10 years, in the last 10 years. And, we are all not pursuing, we all have other occupations and jobs. And certainly there's no way we could rely on this being our primary source of income or livelihood. And so then it with that hopeful, it's the first record I've recorded where my youngest daughter has been here. She's 9 years old. She's
Aw.
almost turning 10, and so she wasn't here for the turn, and she wasn't here for any of those other records. And so to be in a recording studio for the first time as a dad, makes you realize, wow, what am I comparing myself to other people's streams for? Like, I've got everything I've wanted, and I'm able to do something that she gets to be a part of, and she gets to listen to, and she gets to tell me when I don't sound that great on a demo. And and it's about that perspective of, like in Sink or Swim, we're growing old. And it isn't we're growing old like we're gonna go off into the sunset, and we're gonna be figuratively dead long before we're actually literally dead. It's just that, we did a lot of cool things. We accomplished a lot. We probably, in the music industry, with the lack of shows and offers we're getting going into 2025 with a new record coming out, like, maybe we'll still fall short. But at least the hopeful perspective that we had while we're recording the record is that we're going to do everything we can for this record to try to have it be something where people who want to hear more of Amber Pacific get an opportunity to, and people who haven't been introduced to Amber Pacific maybe finally find their way to their new favorite band that's been around for 20 years. But definitely perspective, in terms of looking at where you're at in life, and who would have wrote down, what am I going to be doing at 40, or where am I going to be at, and I would have, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And there's lots of things in terms of our music career that it's difficult to say what it is that we would change, or decisions that we would make. But if we had done things differently, none of us would be where we are. We wouldn't be who we're with, and we wouldn't probably in some cases be living where we're even living. So, so it's one of those things where if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it the exact same way, even when the perspective sometimes of those Spotify numbers come in, and I go, man, I wish we had a few more of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's got to feel like putting a record out at this point in your lives. It's got to feel, is there like less pressure just because it's like it's not your livelihood anymore? You've got your lives set up outside of music, and it's basically just for fun at this point, and wherever it goes, it goes. It's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
It's wild in the sense of, like, even a year ago. I mean, a year ago from right now, if you would have told any of us we would have signed a record deal in 2024, we would have recorded a record, we would have gone out on tour with Red Jumpsuit, Mest, Hawthorne Heights, like, all in that year, we would have thought you were nuts. There is zero chance.
Crazy.
Like, oh, cool, Will's got these songs, but there's no way. I mean, I turned 40 like 3 days after we went on a stint with Hawthorne Heights. That's ridiculous.
That's
like,
so good.
Yeah, so it's like, the fact that we're doing this, that we get the opportunity to do this, it is very different perspective. It's a very different vibe. Don't get me wrong, there is definitely the like drive that we got in us, like, we like, don't tell us this is just the last thing, you know what I mean? Like, no, like, there's a little bit of that fire still in us.
Damn right.
And I mean, that's why we're doing what we're doing. And so, but it definitely is just this like, man, this is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's ironic, what is so ironic to me is like, okay, we're young, we're 19, we're 20, we're on Hopeless Records, and we're a punk rock band, right? But we're making record for business. Like that's I mean, I wrote articles for alternative press back in the day, literally outlining it's the music business. And here we are 20 years later, and I'm going, you know what's punk rock? What's punk rock is recording a record and doing it because you can record a record. Like,
yeah, exactly.
and man, do I want people to hear it?
Oh, for sure.
My biggest fear is that what I believe is our greatest work may not be heard by the same audience that we had when we were 20.
Yeah.
But having said that, it's ironic that we're young kids on the Warped Tour and we're punk rock kids, and here we are, we're 40, and I'd argue what we did at 40 is more punk rock. Like, you gotta record a record, you still gotta go to work. You gotta go on tour. Like one of those days with Hawthorne Heights, I taught that day. I played a show in Seattle, sold out show at El Corazon in Seattle with Hawthorne. And then the next morning, I'm waking up, I'm teaching the kids, and then those guys are waiting for me, and we hop in the RV and we drive down to Portland, and we play another show with Hawthorne that night. Like, that's punk rock.
Yeah.
Like we
that's
did
the life.
For us, you know what I mean? We did the people whining and dining us and long lines of autographs and things. But what's punk rock is working and coming home to your wife and your kids and recording a record and then like going, yeah, we did this for us. Like I think the juxtaposition is kind of hilarious. Like we were so punk rock back then, like, and it's like, we wore a studded belt and we're literally like pandering and we're just like a punk rock business selling CDs and t-shirts. And now it's like, we're going to make music to make music. And we're going to make music not necessarily to appease anyone other than the people who followed us previously and for ourselves. And hopefully that ends up producing a result that has no other influence. Seriously. Mad shout out to Manic Cat for letting us do the record without any like true like input, like we need more of this or that, and allowing Amber Pacific to just unabatedly do an Amber Pacific record in a way with Sean Rogers' help to make it sound the way that we want with no other influence other than the Amber Pacific umbrella, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. That's fucking awesome. And for this last question, since we've been talking about tour a lot, gotta ask, what is your go-to snack at a gas station or a rest stop when you're on tour?
Mine's boring.
Okay, what's yours?
Well, recently in my he's on
a health kick, so it's gonna suck.
I'm almost down 30 pounds in the last year. So
me,
it's like
there's none.
Yeah, mine's like a Coke Zero and a protein bar.
Fuck yeah! Which protein bar?
I had the Kirkland Signature one today.
Ooh.
But I pretty much had every one of them, and so it's really lame.
We had told you that we haven't been on the road in a long time because I didn't know about Buc-ee's until we went on the road to Texas these last few times. So Buc-ee's, that place is pretty cool. I would not be thrilled if they had those in our area of Washington. They're nowhere close, but so I'll go with a big brisket sandwich there. I mean, is that gas station food? I mean, it's a very unique station.
Yeah, we count Buc-ee's.
Okay, we count Buc-ee's. So a big old brisket sandwich. And I think, what is it like? They got like the caramel corn, something like that. Or no, the Buc-ee's like kernels.
Beaver bites, right? Or beaver nuggets.
Yeah, those are good. And then, that's the other thing that's crazy is when we were first touring, the only restaurant that was open like 24/7 was like Jack in the Box.
Damn.
Seriously, like McDonald's wasn't open late. And I mean, I remember times we'd be in our motorhome or the tour bus, and they wouldn't serve us because we are trying to walk through the drive-thru. Like we're like, we can't go through the drive-thru. They're like, yeah, you can't do that. And we're like, look at right there. Like we're not sitting here playing you. And I remember it was always being so hard to get food. And now it's like after shows, the places that we can go up until 2 a.m. is crazy.
It's limitless.
But we don't do, so like we don't do as much, we don't do a lot of gas station food because of that. So our first stop every time we're on the road is, if it's available, is In-N-Out, like for sure.
In-N-Out, solid.
Yeah. And then I remember in the early 2000s, whenever we were in the South, it was Chick-fil-A. And now we have Chick-fil-A up here. And so that's now like not a must stop, but In-N-Out hasn't made its way to Washington yet. And so that's certainly something that we like, at least for us that aren't going to be satisfied with a Kirkland signature protein bar. And we're going to, we're just debating, we're debating not between a double and a single In-N-Out burger, but we're debating between a double and a triple. So
damn right. Damn right.
Well, as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
No, I mean, I just want to make sure that, anybody who's listening to your podcast, if they haven't heard of Amber Pacific before, we hope that you give our new album and our new song a chance, because one of the things that's crazy with the emergence of our scene is that there is a new generation. There are teenagers and 20-year-olds who are listening to bands that I listened to at 19 years and 20 years and 21 years old. It's like we're the new oldies, kind of, in a way. And one of the things that I know when we talk about that hopeful period in the recording process is I know that in our age group, cracking into be a new favorite band is going to be challenging, because even I'm, the bands, I'm listening to bands that were pre-2010. Like if you're a band that came out after that in our scene, hey, credit to you, but I just probably don't know who you are because I'm busy listening to all our old friends and people we were with on Warped Tour. And so I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say, oh, come on, 30 and 40-year-olds who, missed us at the Warped Tours and in 04, 05, 06, and 07, like, jump on the bandwagon. We got room for you. My hopeful part is, hey, why can't we be the new generation's band? Like, why can't we be the new generation of punk rock kids where they go, my parents listened to Fall Out Boy, but I listened to Amber Pacific. You know what I mean? My parents liked Yellow Car because they were on Disney, but I like Amber Pacific. Like that would be my perspective and hopeful goal when recording the record, is that I don't need somebody to know we've been around for 20 years. If they think we've been around for 20 seconds and they like our music and the way it makes them feel, then that made it worth it. So
love that.
That's what I want to do. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Sal. It's been Justin and Matt from Amber Pacific, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.